Going over a brand new poll released by Quinnipiac University, which shows in a head-to-head Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris race, the race is tied, and in a matchup of all the candidates currently running, including the Green Party candidate and Libertarian candidate, Donald Trump holds a 1% lead over Vice President Kamala Harris in this national poll. So, what this poll says is with 41 days to go until Election Day, the presidential race remains too close to call as former President Donald Trump receives 48% support among likely voters, Vice President Kamala Harris receives 47%, and Green Party candidate Jill Stein and Libertarian candidate Chase Oliver receive 1% support. This is according to a Quinnipiac University national poll of likely voters that was released on Tuesday, September 24th. In the Quinnipiac University's poll from August 29th, just following the Democratic National Convention, the presidential race was also too close to call, with Harris having 49% support nationally, Trump having 47% support. In today's poll, Republicans back Trump 93-6, while Democrats back Harris 94-5. And a lot of polls have gone over, that's one of the closest spreads I've seen of Republicans backing Trump and Democrats backing Harris. Typically, Harris is at least a 5 or 6 point advantage over Trump in that department. It's only a 1 point difference on this one. Among independents, 47% back Trump, 44% Harris, 3% Stein, and 2% Oliver. In a hypothetical two-way race between Harris and Trump, Trump received 48%, Harris received 48%. In enthusiasm, 70% of likely voters supporting Harris say they're enthusiastic about supporting her, compared to 75% in August. So her enthusiastic support in this poll has actually gone down, which is a very interesting development. 71% of likely voters supporting Trump say they are very enthusiastic about supporting him, compared to 68% in August. So Trump's support and enthusiasm are actually going up. On the backstretch of the race to Election Day, all eyes are on which candidate can best stroke their supporters' enthusiasm all the way to the finish line. A slight shift suggests the Harris crowd is not roaring as loudly as it was last month, said Quinnipiac University polling analyst Tim Malloy. Favorability ratings, Harris is 47% favorable, 48% unfavorable. 4% haven't heard enough about her, so she is now back underwater. Trump is at 47, 50% unfavorable, 1% have not heard enough about him. It's very, very interesting. This is actually one of Trump's higher favorability polls I've seen in a while. This poll is, I think, just overall very good news for Trump. Tim Walz is 41% favorable, 36 unfavorable, 22 not heard enough of. J.D. Vance, 36 favorable, 46 unfavorable, 17 have not heard enough. On the personality traits, and I'm going to actually stop there, because I think that's pretty much all I want to get across. The most important takeaway is this poll is either a tie, or in the multi-candidate one, Trump is leading. And if you saw my video yesterday, I did, on the CNN poll, which had Harris up by 1, I pointed out that if this is just a one-off poll, there's really not too much concern for Harris. There's a little bit, but not a ton. If this is a beginning of a trend, that the race is really a 1 point race nationally, or even a tie or a Trump lead, then Harris is definitely in trouble. This poll is another step in the direction that Harris might potentially be in trouble. And you may be thinking, well, it's a tied race. The polling average still has Harris up by 1.9. It's a tied race in the poll. Why is this such a big concern for Harris? Because typically in elections, it's not done in a vacuum. And what I mean by that is swing states typically tend to vote more together than apart. So for instance, when you look at 2020, we saw a very close election where Joe Biden won the election, and Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and almost North Carolina voted for Biden over Trump, except for North Carolina, but it was very close. This is an election where overall Joe Biden won. Now let's go to 2016, a very close election where all those states, except for Nevada, all went for Trump. So I think this almost says that if this trend continues, all the swing states but 1 or 2 are going to vote for the winning candidate. So why does this matter? Because these states are not entirely how the national vote goes. For instance, in 2016 and 2020, a state like Pennsylvania, Joe Biden got 50% of the vote in Pennsylvania in 2020. Nationally, he got about 51.3. So Pennsylvania voted to the right of Joe Biden's national numbers. And Trump got 48.84%, which again is further to the right than Trump's national percentage. Michigan, 50, More for Biden, 47.8, about 46.9. These swing states vote to the right of the national vote. This is why the point I was trying to make in the prior video of if Trump is running even or even down by 1 nationally against Kamala Harris, that's actually very good news for him. Because right now I have 226 for Harris and Walz, 219 for Trump and Vance. If the election is a tie nationally or a 1-point Harris lead nationally, you can make a really conceivable argument that this is what the electoral map is going to look like on election day. Because the way things are trending right now and how the states vote and compared to the national environment, this is why the battleground states are battleground states. They vote to the right of the national vote, which we expect fully Kamala Harris to win the popular vote. There's, at least based on 2020 and 2016, more Democrats nationwide than there are Republicans in the country. But that's not how we elect our presidents in the United States. We do the Electoral College. But still, it's an interesting development to show that if it's a 1-point race for Harris is ahead, or like the poll says, it's a tie or a Trump lead, then this is what it would look like, where Trump would get 312, Harris would get 226. If the election is 1.9%, like the polls say it is right now, I think this map is still pretty similar. I would just give the state of Michigan to Harris, and maybe potentially the state of the state of Nevada to Harris and Walz over Trump. That gets Trump down to 291. That's if the polls stay at 1.9% nationwide. But I think we're starting to see a trend here where when I did the last video, Harris was at about 2.3% nationally in the polls. Now it's down to 1.9. And if this trend continues, we may see more worrying signs for Harris nationally, and that may have trickle-down effects down ballot in the states, in the swing states. This is the RCP average right now, the most updated of the states. Trump, in an average of all the battlegrounds, leads by 0.2%. Arizona 2.2, North Carolina 0.5, Georgia 2.1. And the largest lead Harris leads is in the state of Michigan at 1.8. Every other state that Harris is leading right now is 1 point or under. So the point I'm trying to make here is, even though some of the polls in the last few days haven't shown it, the polls today and going forward certainly suggest there seems to be a little bit of a shift where Trump is starting to poll better, or at very least, Harris is starting to poll not as well as she was a few weeks ago. This could be an indicative sign that Harris's numbers are starting to go down, Trump's are starting to go up, and it's looking like this may be Trump starting to pull out a very narrow lead, or maybe a very, very tight election where Trump could pull out a narrow lead. And again, this is something the polls don't reflect, but there's conflicting reports on if there will be another hidden Trump vote on the 2024 election like there was in 2020 and 2016. I'm personally of the mindset that there will be a hidden Trump vote. I don't see why it happened twice, why it wouldn't happen a third time. I think the polling, for the most part, has seemed to correct it a little bit, but now we're starting to see some percentages that are a little bit lower, like 47, 47, 46, 47, where things are leaving a little bit of undecided vote that a hidden Trump vote would probably make up for. The fact that on election day, if this happens where the race is this close, where Nevada's under 1, Wisconsin's under 1, Pennsylvania's under 1, Michigan at 1.8, I feel pretty good that Harris will win the state, but this is not an insurmountable margin at all for Trump to beat Harris in these numbers. And if the election were today, I actually would bet on Trump winning the election because I think there is enough of a hidden Trump vote to make up this margin. But that doesn't mean if you support Harris, the election's over and she's going to lose. There is certainly enough support for Harris to win as well. I just think the trend for the last few weeks has been Harris growing her support since the debate, since the DNC. Harris's support has been going up. This is the first instinct in a while we've seen where Harris's support is really starting to go down. The question is, how much does her support continue to go down? That'll be a big impact for how this election will go. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button. And make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really like the video. And remember to stay tuned because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until election day, so I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.